David shocked the world when he was caught showing up at his late girlfriend Celeste's funeral even after he'd been accused of unaliving her, and with no surprise, he was immediately kicked away like a dirt bag. Yet what stunned everyone even more was when he shamelessly claimed that he missed her so badly and wanted her back. An outrageous statement that has turned this case into one of the most twisted and disturbing sagas people have ever witnessed. The story of Celeste and David had already spiraled into one of the most infamous scandals in recent memory. From the moment authorities declared David the prime suspect in Celeste's tragic death, the public labeled him a monster, a manipulative force whose presence had not only stolen a young life, but tainted the innocence of a relationship once thought to be loving. Celeste's friends, family, and even complete strangers were devastated by her sudden passing. The funeral was meant to be a sacred moment of grieving and remembrance, a quiet sanctuary where people could mourn her without fear of intrusion. But that sacred peace was shattered when David himself appeared, walking among the mourners with an air of audacity that left everyone speechless. Please do not forget to like this video, share and subscribe to this channel if you want more updates like this. Thank you. Now, let's get back into the video. Witnesses at the funeral described the moment as surreal. The very man accused of taking Celeste's life dared to step foot on holy ground meant to honor her memory. People gasped in disbelief as David's figure approached, dressed somberly yet somehow carrying an unsettling calm. Some attendees immediately confronted him, demanding to know how he had the nerve to show up. Others stood frozen, unable to comprehend what they were seeing. For Celeste's family, especially her grieving mother, this was beyond disrespectful. It was salt poured into a wound that was still bleeding. Accounts from that day paint a vivid picture of chaos. As David tried to step closer to the casket, several men blocked his path, their voices raised in fury, telling him to leave before things turned violent. One witness said the atmosphere was so tense it felt like the funeral could erupt into a riot at any second. And eventually they had enough. David was grabbed, shoved, and kicked out of the ceremony like a dirt bag, his presence no longer tolerated by a single soul in attendance. People yelled at him, cursed his name, and made it clear that Celeste's memory would not be desecrated by his audacity to appear. But what stunned people wasn't just the fact that David came, it was what he said afterward. When questioned by those present and later by reporters, David claimed he only showed up because he missed Celeste so much. His exact words sent chills down spines. "I miss her so bad. I want her back." For many, this was the most twisted form of manipulation they had ever seen. How could a man accused of ending Celeste's life stand there, tears in his eyes, claiming he wanted her back as if their love had been interrupted by fate and not by his own actions? Psychologists analyzing David's behavior described it as narcissistic and disturbing. It was as if he wanted to rewrite the narrative, painting himself not as a villain, but as a grieving lover whose pain was equal to the family's. But the public wasn't buying it. The backlash was immediate and furious. Social media exploded with outrage, calling David a monster, a fraud, and a shameless liar trying to play the victim in a story where he was the aggressor. Celeste's funeral had already been heavy with grief, but David's appearance turned it into a battlefield of emotions. Attendees later recalled that Celeste's mother broke down completely, having to be carried away by friends as David's shadow loomed over the ceremony. For her, the pain of losing her daughter was unbearable, but the added insult of seeing David there transformed sorrow into rage. Her tears that day weren't just for Celeste. They were for the injustice of having her daughter's accused killer dare to intrude on her final goodbye. As the story spread, reporters dug deeper into David's history with Celeste, piecing together a portrait of a relationship that was far darker than it had appeared from the outside. Friends revealed that David had shown signs of control. The story you are about to hear is one of the most shocking downfalls in music history. Others hinted because it tells how David, the two, had escalated as a young rising artist with everything ahead of investigators. David's presence at the funeral wasn't just a shocking act of the unaliving of 15-year-old Celeste. Further evidence of his manipulative, life imprisonment, obsessive behavior. Whispers in the days that followed, Maybe he was never the real monster at all, behind but David's rather the shield for someone else. Did he truly believe what he said, forever remain, or was it a performance to garner sympathy? From the very beginning of this tragic story, the air was heavy with disbelief, attempting to sway public opinion, because David was no ordinary name as a grieving partner. He was a type of artist said it was a calculated future sound, a way to maintain psychological control over the creative who built his career on vulnerability and soul. Regardless of motive, just in his late one thing was clear. People started calling him a phenomenon. David Stun had only kind of talent that only comes around once in a decade. The funeral scene became the central focus of news cycle for weeks. Eyes red, every major outlet carried confessing to something so David dark, crashes, so disturbing. Images of even the most hardened journalists could not bring themselves right about it. Circulated like wildfire. Please do not forget to hashtag and online petitions, share and subscribe to this channel. All demanding want more updates like this. For many, thank you. David's audacity wasn't just an insult to Celeste's family. The beginning of his downfall was not that he had no remorse, though. That his guilt was gradual, all over his actions. Whispers, late night rumors, and cryptic posts. Celeste's family had to rebuild when Celeste, a 15-year-old full of life. The funeral had been hijacked. Her family's desperate search collided with David's, but they refused to let David's actions overshadow Celeste's intersection would forever destroy both. Openly about her kindness. At first, nobody suspected him, and the light after all she brought into their lives. David shared stories of her laughter. His fan base treated him like he could do no wrong. And the plan she had for the future, his music painted him in their someone sensitive to pain. They knew Celeste deserved to be remembered for the beauty of her life. But the night authorities discovered Celeste's body inside the trunk of a car, or the circus surrounding it. The narrative began shifting. The haunting image of David. What followed was chaos. Protective custody was later offered to Celeste's mother after additional threats surfaced. Critics dissecting his lyrics, some suspected David's presence was meant, and police psychological to detain him, to intimidate her further. In court for the first time. The FBI began investigating whether David had violated legal restrictions by attending reporters, and questions mounted about how he even managed to appear there. The quiet sobbing of Celeste's mother for those who had been at the clicking shutters. The memory was burned into their minds forever. But there was one mourner described it as the moment the air went cold. It was the aura saying that seeing David walk into that church, someone too young to be facing life in prison, into holy ground, yet too guilty to ever another said the entire crowd, the prosecution wasted no time, as though they laid out every detail by his audacity. David's timeline of Celeste disappeared and wanted her digital only amplified the grotesque irony of people who had seen her last. How could he want back discovery of her body of taking away? The fact that her DNA was a contradiction so twisted it directly left back people shaking along after the evidence was crushing, even almost suffocating. Those words couldn't erase the evidence. Whispers turned into gas in the gallery. The pain of Celeste. David sat there, head down. The trial ahead promises to be one of the most dramatic courtroom battles in years. Anyone in the eye. And the funeral incident defense team tried desperately to shift the narrative. Prosecutors are expected to use possibilities of manipulation, coercion, or manipulative tendencies, but none of it would stand the weight of the truth that eventually poured from David's own lips. Because one afternoon, midway through the trial, David stood up, asked to address the court, and confessed. The silence that followed was unlike anything anyone had ever experienced. Total, absolute silence, as if the air itself was too stunned to move. He admitted he was the one responsible for Celeste's death, though his words carried a strange ambiguity, a shadowy undertone that suggested layers beneath the surface. "I did it," he said, voice breaking. "But not everything is what it seems." His confession, though damning, left more questions than answers. Why did he do it? What pushed a promising young star into such darkness? And perhaps the most haunting question of all, was he protecting someone else? There were whispers in the courtroom, whispers that have since followed him into the prison where he will spend the rest of his life. Some say David took the fall to shield someone close to him, someone powerful enough to manipulate the narrative,